Okay, this is a brief tutorial on histograms, and I've created a little histogram here. I've created 5 categories, and in each of these categories I have a number of people who responded that they, in my supposed survey, was the number of alcoholic drinks during the week and how many drinks individuals had, and they responded in this manner. So this would be the number of people up here and the number of drinks here. There are 2 ways to make this histogram. I can either make it off of raw data, so that each of these columns would actually have the number of people that fell into each of those categories. This would be 15, 20, 17, 8, and 5. And that's perfectly acceptable. Now you may want to, rather than, especially if these are very large numbers here, you may want to make this representative of a percentage for whatever reason. To do a percentage, to do this histogram relative to percentages, I have to know the total number of people in my survey, which in this case turned out to be 65. Then I'm going to take the number of people in each category and divide by that total to get the percentage in that category. So 15 out of 65, 20 out of 65, 17, etc., etc., giving me percentages. So then over here, instead of actual numbers, I would write the percentage, 23%, 31%, etc., etc., etc. Now, if you don't put your values on top of the columns, then somebody has to interpret those percentages. If it's not that critical, the actual numbers, just put some dash marks over here and then people can guess at what that is. So then if you use percentages, this would be percent of people rather than the number of people. Okay, now this particular data set was discrete values. They either had 1 drink or 2 drinks or 3 drinks. It is possible that your data is not just a discrete value, but it is a range of values, in which case you might have 0 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, etc., etc., etc. Or these could even be wider categories. They could be 0 to 500, 501 to 6 to 1,000, whatever. And then you'd have this many people that fell in that category. Percent-wise, the columns wouldn't change, but certainly the value of any particular individual would be different. So if you're given a range of things like that, and they want you to interpret, say, a mean, you would need to know the value. Well, I don't know. These 15 people might have all been 5s or 4s or some combination of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the middle value of that span, 2.5, and I'm going to assign each individual that value. Over here, this would be 7.5, we'll say. So each individual in this group would be given 7.5. So then I have 15, 2.5, 20, 7.5, etc., etc. Then I could actually interpret a mean value, taking the total divided by the n and get a mean, and I could interpret my data that way. That is a so-so interpretation. Certainly if it's discrete data, it makes it much easier and percentages much more accurate. Now, it is possible that you would be given a table and they would ask you, well, what's the best way to summarize that information? Well, if I'm given a histogram and I don't have any raw data and I don't want to do this, probably the best way is to look at it in terms of the 5-number summary, or find the median, the Q1, Q3 point. So the question then is, how do I find the median? Well, 65 is the number of people. So if I were to increase that by 1 and say 66, the median would be the 33rd person. Q1 would then be half of that, which would be about 17th person. And then Q3 would be 17, about the 50th person. Okay, so now that we've decided that this is Q1, and this is the Q2 or median position, and this is Q3. So how do I find this point? So I'm going to count up to 17. Well, there's 15. And the next person to get to 17, that would put me in this category. So my Q1 would fall somewhere in that column. Then 33 is my Q2 point. Well, there's 15, and 20 is 35. So actually, Q2 also fell in that grouping. Q3 was then 50, and so I would count up 35, 45, 50 something. So actually, my Q3 fell out here. Now, it just so happened that both Q1 and Q2 fell in the same grouping category. Bad math on my part, and I didn't really play with the data to make it come out nicely. But that's how you would do it. You would find the middle, and then you count up that many people. Once you get to that many people, if you're in some group or category, then that's where your median would lie. So that's how to use find your 5-number summary. And of course, the low point would be whatever 1 was, and the high would be 5. Hopefully, that gave you some insight into how to look at this data and how to summarize it, and different ways to present the information. Thank you very much for listening. Bye.